My boyfriend's best friend lost his home in the California wildfire, and my boyfriend told him his family could move into our cramped apartment without asking me first, and now I'm resenting him for it. Posted by you/throwawayfire66. First, I just want to preface this by saying that I am fully willing to support their family through tangible means like buying them food, supplies, furniture, etc. I just don't think our apartment is a viable option. My boyfriend, 21M, and I, 21F, live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment in a very expensive area. Rent is around $3,000 per month, and we're both stressed out college students. This guy, 22M, has been best friends with my boyfriend since high school, and they regularly keep in touch and drive to see each other. My boyfriend and I live in NorCal, while they live further south. The friend has not been in a good financial situation for the last 2 years. He dropped out of community college after he got a girl pregnant, and they ended up getting married after she gave birth. She is now 7 months pregnant with their second child. My boyfriend and I usually go down to visit them together, and we always pay for meals, and I always try to buy a couple of toys for their 2-year-old. We have been in contact with them since last night. They were able to safely evacuate and bring some essentials, including their car, but their house has burned down. My heart aches for their family, and I really want to help them by transferring money or even calling some of my friends who live in SoCal to see if they are willing to take them in. But during a FaceTime call this morning, my boyfriend immediately, without any hesitation or asking me, offered up our small apartment to them. They were very thankful and initially said it would be too much for us, but my boyfriend insisted, and they graciously accepted in the end. I was in the background, barely silent the entire time. After my boyfriend hung up, I asked him why he extended the offer without even asking me, and he acted shocked and said that he thought I would 100% support his decision. I told him that I would have in any other living situation, but we are 2 poor college students, living in a small apartment in an expensive area, and it is definitely going to be more than difficult to accommodate his friend, his pregnant wife, and their toddler. My boyfriend said that I was being a bit selfish and that they just lost their house and that I should be more understanding and sympathetic. And don't get me wrong, I agree that I'm being selfish, but I am also being reasonable and trying to think rationally. I may be a bit biased since I am in the middle of preparing for the MCAT, which I'm taking in January, and I really need to do well on it, and dear God, it is not an easy test. My boyfriend and I are both in very stressful majors that require a ton of work and studying, and on top of that, we both work part-time. I feel like I'm already so stressed out right now with school, work, and everything. I look forward to the quiet time in our apartment that we get to spend. I digress, but I can't help but think of how this changes everything. Of course, this is probably temporary, even though my boyfriend said they could stay as long as they need to, but right now is really not the time. My boyfriend and I argued over this for an hour, and I ended up just heading out for the day. My boyfriend is sticking to his plan, and he texted me saying that he's sorry and that he knows it'll be hard, but to remember we're doing a good thing and supporting our friends in a time of crisis. I couldn't help but think that it was really his friend and not ours, but I might just be being bitter. They are planning to drive up tomorrow morning. I'm just so worried, stressed, and my anxiety is through the roof. I came home around 2 hours ago and noticed that my boyfriend has already set up a mattress in our second bedroom, which is our office/work area, and set up the couch. I burst into tears and almost had a panic attack. I just don't know how to deal with toddlers, and I also don't know how to support and take care of a pregnant woman. My boyfriend comforted me, but I can't help but feel a bit resentful right now. He agreed to this without asking me, and I can't fight back now. I would seem like such a horrible person. I'm still crying in our room as I'm typing this, and my boyfriend went out to stock up on groceries. God, I don't know what to do, and I feel so panicky. What can I do at this point, Reddit? I'm at a complete loss. Additional info from Op regarding her feelings about the best friend's family. To be very honest, I'm not the biggest fan of their family. From what I could tell from visiting them with my boyfriend, they do not have their act together. When we visited them around 3 months ago, the wife regularly went out and partied while pregnant, and their toddler is extremely misbehaved. While I was there last time, I had to help change the toddler's diaper while the wife was out partying, and my boyfriend and his friend were playing video games. Relevant comments. Commenter. Do they have any other options? Honestly, my boyfriend would do the same thing, and I love that about him. It really sucks that this is happening during such an important time in school, but if these people have nowhere to live, I don't see how turning them away isn't a little heartless. Of course, you might need to stay at your friend's house to get studying done, but is that such a horrible trade-off for helping a family with no home? Op's response. I think they do have options but decided to turn to us because their family would be harder on them, pushing them to pay for themselves and move out soon. They both have family nearby. In fact, the husband's wealthy family lives not far from us. However, they had already housed them for a year and a half after she got pregnant at 18, and according to my boyfriend, they were furious about how they acted during that time and almost kicked them out. They eventually caved and actually bought the house they lived in so they could move out. I just can't deal with irresponsible adults in addition to a toddler in my small apartment. As others have pointed out, they can get support from FEMA or even stay at a local shelter. Hundreds of people are doing this. If they need money or food, I will gladly send it to them, but I can't offer my space for many reasons. I'm sorry if you see this as heartless, but I get the feeling you would feel differently if you were actually in my situation. Update 1 day later. Never thought I'd be updating so fast, but everything was resolved during one of the most hectic and stressful nights of my life. Shout out to all my supporters out there, you guys made my day yesterday. And to those of you calling me heartless because I don't think offering up our living space is a good idea, even though I've said I'm willing to support them in any other way, screw you. The pregnant wife, husband, and toddler arrived at our apartment last night around 9:30 p.m. They had already told us on the way that their toddler had contracted some kind of food poisoning and wasn't feeling well, which is what delayed them. My boyfriend and I went down to greet them and immediately noticed they had so much luggage, 2 large suitcases, a duffel bag, and about 4 Trader Joe's shopping bags filled with random stuff and half-eaten food. Cool, that was going to be fun to lug up the stairs. So, my boyfriend and the husband started bringing up their stuff, while I stayed back and half-carried the pregnant wife up the stairs because she felt too tired and nauseous. We got upstairs, and I asked where Jake, the toddler, was. The wife suddenly realized she had forgotten to unbuckle him from the car seat and left him there. She asked if I could go down and grab him. I wanted to say, not my forgotten toddler, not my responsibility, but I decided to try to be gracious, at least for the first day, so I went down and unstrapped the toddler, who looked visibly sick. There were literally 2 bags of vomit next to him, which I removed from the car and threw in the trash because they would have been forgotten and become a severe health hazard. I tried to see if he could walk, but he started crying and dragging himself on the ground, so I picked him up and carried him upstairs. I set the kid down next to our couch, and Lord Almighty, he did not look good. His cheeks were flushed bright red, dried vomit was caked on his face, and his breathing seemed quick and shallow. I felt his forehead, and it was burning hot, so I ran to the bathroom to get a thermometer. While I was digging for it, I heard, again? Are you effing kidding me, Jake? I rushed out, and sure enough, the poor kid had thrown up all over our carpet. I wanted to cry. I ran to the kitchen for paper towels, but the pregnant wife was already using some sort of napkin or cloth to sop it up, smearing it around and making it worse, and I wanted to die. I stepped in to help while the toddler screamed, and she yelled at him to shut the F up. My boyfriend and the husband came over to help, but the wife told them to go away because she had it handled. Then she asked me if I could take Jake to the bathroom to rinse him off, and the only reason I said yes was because I was seriously worried about the kid. I stripped him down, ran warm water in the tub, and put him in. I placed a thermometer in his mouth, and lo and behold, he had a temperature of 106 degrees. Not good at all. Combined with vomiting, rapid breathing, and lethargy, that was enough to warrant a trip to the ER. I yelled for the mother to come to the bathroom and asked where she thought he got the food poisoning. She said she didn't know, he'd just been eating fruit for the past 2 days. I started freaking out because his symptoms were consistent with meningitis. The poor kid kept grabbing his head and crying, clearly having a headache. I asked her if he'd been vaccinated for meningitis, and she said she didn't think he'd been vaccinated at all. Now I was panicking. I felt Jake's neck and tried to ask if it was hard for him to move it, but he just cried harder. I called for my boyfriend and the husband, explained the situation, and the husband confirmed that the baby hadn't been vaccinated for meningococcal bacteria. It was a no-brainer at that point. I told them how life-threatening meningitis could be and that it could leave Jake paralyzed. The wife burst into tears and gave the okay, so all 4 of us, plus Jake, piled into their car and headed to the ER. My boyfriend drove while I sat in the back, cradling Jake and checking for rashes on his arms and legs with my phone flashlight. The wife kept crying. I was close to crying too. We finally got to the ER, and I told them there was a 2-year-old with symptoms, blah blah blah, who hadn't been vaccinated for meningitis, and we suspected he had it. They immediately brought him in and asked if I was the parent. I said no and pointed to the wife, who was trailing behind me in tears. They brought her in with Jake and told me to wait in the lobby. That was the first time I actually breathed. 5 minutes later, the husband and my boyfriend rushed in. I told the husband to talk to the staff so he could be brought in too. He did, and my boyfriend came over to hug me, and I just lost it, falling into his chest. He kept apologizing, saying it was all his fault. I was still crying when he called an Uber for me, insisting I go home and rest while he handled the rest. I was too exhausted to argue, so I got home around midnight, brushed my teeth, and crashed after getting a text saying Jake was stable on antibiotics and waiting on blood tests and cultures. I woke up around 10 a.m. the next morning, and the apartment was eerily quiet. My boyfriend wasn't in bed. I wandered into the living area and found him asleep on the couch, no luggage, no pregnant wife in sight. I nudged him awake, and he told me everything. Jake was in the ICU, and my boyfriend had managed to get a nearby hotel for the family at half price after explaining what had happened. He paid for a week-long stay and helped move all their stuff to the hotel while the wife stayed with Jake at the hospital. He kept apologizing, saying he didn't think things through and asking me to forgive him. I told him it was okay and hugged him. It turned out to be one hell of an experience, one I never want to relive, but I'm glad Jake is safe, and I'm really glad they won't be living with us. Relevant comments. Commenter. I thought the meningitis vaccine wasn't approved for kids until they are 11 in the US. Ops response. Some infants and toddlers can get it if they suffer from certain deficiencies, autoimmune disorders, or are HIV positive. Commenter 2. Sometimes things happen for a reason. It seems like this happened to you so you could save a life. A bad experience for you, but good for the kid. Ops response. Yes, I'm thankful that I was able to catch a few of his symptoms. I'm no doctor by any means, but meningitis is an incredibly scary infection. I'm glad I urged them to go to the ER. However, I must say, I lost a lot more respect for the family from this experience. Adds some final words to commenters. Some key points that people keep missing. The pregnant wife, husband, and toddler chose to drive over 600 miles to live in our 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home instead of staying with the husband's wealthy family, only around 200 miles away, who also paid for their house and housed them for 2 years. I have my suspicions as to why this is the case, but you can make your own judgments. Finally, the pregnant wife's behavior is no different than usual. I've been to their house multiple times and can confirm that she curses at her child, drinks while pregnant, and is unable to adequately care for the child.